Hello, good evening. Welcome back. How's everybody doing? Just go ahead and make sure that your mic is turned off, and I will do my best to monitor that, but it is a little tough going back and forth between that. So just help me, do me a favor, find your mic and let's turn it off. How's everybody doing? Day 2, we are here. I'm just pulling something up so I have that by my side too. How was session 1? Did we watch it? Did we watch session 1? So if you have not seen session 1, just go ahead and make sure you do that maybe sometime later after this session to make sure that you are aware of the things that we talked about. Okay, I'm going to help you guys with your mics. It looks like we're having some struggle finding our mics. Okay. Yes. Yes, there is a way to rewatch sessions. Definitely. So let me make sure that you get that link. So I'll do that real quick before we get started. Make sure we have that link ready to go. I sent out an email this morning with the link, so it's in your inbox, but I have no problem getting it now, just so you guys have that, because this is the link that you'll use all week. And now how do I get back over here? There we go. Yes, this is the link that I'm putting in the chat right now. This is the link. It says Resilient Immune System Workshop, and I can't change the SEO link, so it's not that. If you click on it, that's the replays. I used it for a previous website, and I haven't been able to change the shorthand key. So it is that Resilient Immune System Workshop is the replay website for this event. Alrighty. I'm gonna try to go back to the room here and make sure we can get everybody admitted. We have a good crowd again today. Welcome back. If you have not seen the day 1, start there after the session, because we went over some, but we'll review a little bit just to set up the session tonight. And make sure you're muted. Great, guys. Hello, I'm Laura Baum, Laura's Botanicals. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome to Become an Herbalist. If you're returning, awesome. Make sure to say who you are, your full name, and where you're coming from. If you did that last night, do it again tonight, because you get live participation credit. I didn't even mention that on last night's call. You get live participation points towards a giveaway at the end of this week. So we tend to do giveaways to incentivize people to show up and to participate and to take action. So make sure to say where you're coming from. And we've had a lot of engagement in our chat last night. It was really amazing. So many people had wonderful insights to share, and I shared some of those in an email this morning. Just, great stories and experiences, and just a lot of wonderful questions. So just keep it up. I love the engagement, and I know that everybody who's watching the chat will too, who's on Zoom tonight. I did not share it to Facebook, and I had wanted to do that, but I think we're all good. I've just been resharing the links on YouTube and directly through the replay page, which I just shared in the chat, and I'm happy to kind of do that again several times so you guys have that link. Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and get us started with our presentation tonight. A little bit about gardening, just a few slides to kind of get ourselves ready. If you have the workbook, go ahead and get that out, or get some paper out, because you will take some notes again with the notes, with the prompts that we give tonight for this next session, just like last night. Great. And it started me back at the, oh no, we're at the right spot. Got it. Great. Awesome. So thank you. I see lots of great spots that we're from in the chat. Thank you for sharing that. And go ahead and in the chat, if you have seen the first session already, just make sure that you are putting what is your best takeaway from session one in the chat. What were your thoughts after? Did you get to some more fruition or clarity on your goals, your theme? This is a good time to be sharing that in the chat as well. And tonight we're talking about the garden, right? And also allocating the herbs that you will ever need. So this isn't just about like how to garden, because that's of course that takes some time and to get in depth. This is about the planning and strategy behind what will be your method for getting herbs and having herbs on hand for yourself, for your health, and for others that you tend to take care for. For some of you, that means you're going to be taking care of other people with herbs. So it's good to get these supply lines in place if you're choosing to go and help other people with herbs. All right. So phase two, the garden and the supply line. Last night we mentioned vision. Why vision? Because why vision? It's emotional connection. And sorry, I had something on my screen that I was trying to figure out where it came from. Why is vision infused in this? And last night we decided on what our vision is and our word for 2025, what we want our outlook to look like for health this season, this year, and our first 120 days, 150 days of the year. So it's a very profound thing to come up with that word, right? I mean, you are choosing a word that will determine how you want to feel, what you want to step into. And then making an actual goal setting session where you've planned out your 4 or 5 goals that you really want to focus on for this year. So the theme again is that particular health focus that you want to focus in on, because we don't want you to be taking on too much at once. If you are overwhelmed, you need to kind of like limit your scope and limit your focus. Make sure that things are only happening one thing at a time, and simplify, simplify, simplify. And this theme is going to be something you start with to build confidence and to um really put all your effort into getting to know really, really well, right? So it's like getting to know something really well before you move on to another thing. So if that makes sense, let me know in the chat. And you don't have to share your health focus or your concern if you don't want to, but if you do want to share it, go ahead and put it in the chat, and people might converse on that and say, yes, that's me too. Think I'm going to focus on that for a while. This doesn't have to be something you're actually dealing with, right? This could be something that you have seen other people deal with, and you want to be someone who's invested in learning about that thing. Or it's an area of health that you're passionate about, that you think that you could make a difference in. So it doesn't have to be necessarily something that you are completely going through. This could just be something that you want to focus on. Maybe you're already a practitioner and you are really trying to stretch your practice into a different area. This could be a great project to get deeper into that health concern. Okay, so these are reflections from last night because this was last night's session. When it comes to like making goals for a garden or for herbs, just go ahead and like write down a few things that you already know about plants or about the herbs that you know that you want to have. So this could be based on your own experience or just what you believe um you would like to have happening. So I can give you some examples here. Stocking a larder, fermentation or canning food, growing food, um, having wildflower garden, having bees come to your garden, making your own honey. Maybe you want to hold space to like just meditate or connect with nature, grow cover crops. Maybe you're trying to like clean up an area that needs to be grown into a garden instead of being trashed or not taken care of. So when I say write out your garden goals, it's like, what are some of the plant-based things you'd like to focus on for the next 120 days? Again, we're using that time structure because the garden is one of the core routines in our process. We expect you to take on the garden within the action plan. Again, the garden, the practical herbal apothecary, and making your own herbal medicine are non-negotiables. They're part of your everyday holistic process. So no matter what your growing level is, there are some goals or ideal situations that you might want to take on, or things like this is the place to like put down like what you really have always desired when it comes to plants or herbs. This could also be like, I want to just make sure I have all the herbs I need for my own herbal teas, or I want to transfer all my herbs from dried herbs to fresh herbs this year. I'd like to enhance and grow an herb garden. So this is the mapping out those kinds of goals for you and thinking about, how deep and how involved would you like to get with these plants. And then, now once you have those written down, you'll be able to understand then, you can research the steps to actually being able to hit each of those goals. So you will need to decide too, are you going to grow all of your herbs? Are you going to grow some, or are you going to allocate all of your herbs, right? So we know that it's going to be one of those three strategies. So in your workbook, it says which strategy, write down which strategy and which one are you going to circle the most, right? So this is the three strategies. Are you going to grow all of your herbs? Are you going to grow some of them? Or are you going to allocate all of your herbs? So this is what you want to know before you begin a regular consumption practice, or even not regular, even if you're just like a one time a week herb taker, right? Which hopefully, at some point you're doing herbs maybe several times a week. You want to be prepared and you want to be effective, and you don't want to do something harmful, right? So you don't want to be in a pinch when you do want herbs. You don't want to be eating herbs or taking herbs in tea bags that might be exposed to microplastics. You want to have access to good stuff, and you want to be prepared for when you need it, because you don't always know what you're going to need until you do, right? You don't always have a headache, so you don't always need Tylenol, right? And you need to have your alternatives on hand for when you do. So this is why planning is so essential. So part of those goals is like, what are the things you're going to end up needing? And that could be based on your theme. So the theme should be infused into your garden. So if your theme is, example, herbs for lung health, which is the example I mentioned last night, the herbs that are going to go in your garden this year are the herbs, or the herbs that you're going to allocate and put in your apothecary are herbs for lung health. Does that make sense? So being specific and being focused will help you really get a lot more done, and be able to really get a lot more joy and relationship out of these particular herbs that you've chosen. So now go ahead and think about, what is your current confidence in gardening your own herbs? I mean, and you could say in the chat, what is, what kind of experiences have you had with gardening so far? And what do you think you really could take on with a garden? Because there are gardens for every type of grower. There's container gardens, there's larger raised bed gardens. And, it really is. This isn't really just about telling you what to do or what's best. It's saying right now we're just evaluating like what exactly is your experience. What do you think? What skill sets do you think you would like to develop first to get better if you're trying to improve in this area? And again, we're trying just to figure out what your strategy should be. So if you are not very confident and you know that, maybe you're not going to be the person who relies completely on herbs that you grew yourself. Not the beginning of your process, right? You might need to do that maybe year two, or maybe even in a year of this process. So just think about that for now, and tell us in the chat an experience that you've done, maybe if you have grown herbs, or even a 0 to 10, 10 being like, I'm a farmer, and 0 being like, I've never grown anything, or it's always died, or I've never been able to keep anything going. And what is your confidence level in foraging your own herbs? Because the other part of that strategy is, if you're not growing, maybe you're foraging. Because foraging is a way of allocating herbs, right? And wild foods. We have a lot of herbs, and we're going to go deeper into foraging later this week because we have a whole session dedicated to it. But you're really, think about that now. Think about what skills you think might be needed to be a forager. And that was the same with gardening too. What skills do you think are needed or required that maybe you currently don't have? What things do you already think you do have? And again, a 0 to 10, 10 being like, I'm an avid forager, I'm making it for my own fermentations, I'm making my own plant-based things completely from wild crafted herbs and foods. I'm eating foods readily off trees. And 0 being like, no, I don't even know the difference between a maple and an oak tree, and I really have no idea how to get started. I've heard good things, but and skill sets would definitely affect your confidence, right? Like, because you don't necessarily know what you're doing. So that would make you feel more uneasy or wary of what you're trying to do. And I think confidence also comes just from experience. So, in the chat, if you want to share any experiences you have where you might have been guided by someone to forage, or told by a family member that you could eat something from a yard, or an actual foraging experience that you had with another herbalist, or maybe it was with me. Maybe we went out together on a group trip together or something, or a walk. And, that'll help other people kind of gauge where we are in that conversation. Awesome. So, how are we doing so far? We've got some goals, we've got some experiences. And I mean, this is something that you can do more deeply, right? Take time out of your day this week to think about, what things have worked in your garden if you have gardened before. Was there a specific experience in gardening that left an impression, or in nature? What feelings have you recently had with nature? And then jotting down any of those memories, because that is helping you have a moment of gratitude, and that feeds this vision based system. Because again, the whole point of this is to create cycles and to create momentum with your own personal initiative in your own health. The garden too is, we'll go into this in a second about being a reflection space, but the garden is a non-negotiable, meaning you should have a garden, no matter what your confidence or growth level is. So we'll explain that in a minute with the strategies. And what is your level of confidence in purchasing your own herbs? Have you purchased herbs before? Do you know, when you go to a store and look at formulas, can you tell the formulas apart? Can you read the labels and know what the plant names mean? Um, are you able to determine its effectiveness? Have you compared brands before? Have you gotten deep enough to like take the same kind of herb tincture from many different companies and say, yes, this one's stronger, this one's not, Um, how often have you purchased your own herbs? Or, and again, 0 to 10, 10 being like, I've done this several times, maybe like 20 times. I know which suppliers I like to use for which herbs. Um, and 0 being no, never have, don't know who those suppliers are, can't read formulas, don't know the difference between different preparations, and that's okay. This isn't something you have to share in the chat, right? I'm not here to like pull those people out and be like, you don't know anything. Like, no, like this is, we are who we are, and we're here this week to learn, right? So we have to create these spectrums so we understand like how much more can we achieve within these skill sets, because skill sets do create confidence. That is how you're able to determine goals and to know where to focus, because you have that experience, or you've begun to acquire that knowledge. And purchasing herbs too also includes local suppliers, right? Local farmers markets. So have you gone to a local farmers market? Have you seen herbs there? Have you purchased herbs? How was that experience? So share an experience where maybe you've purchased herbs in the chat, or maybe gotten an herbal tea at a local tea shop or something, because that counts too. Just like we mentioned last night with vision, it's one thing to map it out, but the real proof is in the implementation. So we have to kind of plan some of the stuff out. That is how we're going to make an action plan this week, is if we figure out when exactly and how exactly all these changes are going to occur. So what are the challenges, real or things you think that will be, that'll come up in the way of you being able to allocate herbs for yourself, either foraging, gardening, or purchasing herbs? And I mean, I'm sure that these challenges, there could be so many that I can't even think about right now, because every person's different. Every person and family is unique. So in the chat, you could share some of those challenges or things that have come up before. I mean, people really like to learn from other people's challenges, or they might have answers for you that might help you immediately tonight. So of course it's going to be gauged on your experience levels and your skills, but I think everybody as a soundboard can be super helpful in just hearing people's stories and what they've got going on. Um, so, yes, it could be based in your skill sets, but there could be other outside challenges that might kind of get in the way. And we want to deal with those challenges again to create a realistic plan for you. All right. So I'll give you guys a minute to kind of like think about those, and yeah, and then we'll move on. No matter your experience, the right plants will grow and the garden will create mental space for that healing capacity. So, um that is the whole point. The garden is not just for you, it's also for your community. So think about, a little bit of vision with your garden. What features do you want your community to have? What plants do you like personally? What do you want to do with the garden? What would be the purpose of it? Which plants did your people say they wanted grown, right? If you have family who wanted certain plants, or a community who said they wanted certain plants, um, these are the kinds of things you get to create and think about when it's coming up with your garden. Awesome. So remember that herbalism is not a trend, it's a way of life, right? It's not just something we're supplementing, it's a routine that we're keeping. So here you see growing strategically, foraging confidently, farmers market stalls, and relationships with growers. And when it comes to that, those three things, growing, foraging, and farmers market stalls, we're going to do all three of those things, but you need to figure out which one are you going to do the most of. So right now, in that workbook space about the strategy, just go from 1 to 3, 1 being the one you're going to do the most. Which one are you going to do the most in the next 100, 120 days? And I mean, we're going into the early spring now. So you're thinking about getting your spring garden ready if you're gardening. And all of you should garden. Everybody should have a garden, at least a small garden. So that's why it's included. It's going to be either 1, 2, or 3. But which one are you going to do the most of? So are you going to, one, focus on farmers market relationships more, or developing reputable herb sourcing? Or are you going to focus most on the garden and secondary on the suppliers, like the farmers markets, and third on foraging? So which put foraging, farmers market slash suppliers, and gardening in the spot that you prioritize. So this is just about you and what you want to prioritize.
Okay.
So for me this year, I'm going to focus most on foraging, 2 on farmers market suppliers, and 3 on the garden. Okay, that's my personal one for this next 120, 150 days. So again, we're not doing the garden, because the garden is, in essence, a reflection space. It is a space that reminds you of your commitment to nature. It's the number one thing in the blue zone based routines that show the most health benefits. It connects people to nature, it connects people to other people. It's a wonderful stress reduction strategy. And it's a moment for mental health reflection, not to mention there's so many other benefits. And that's why we went through the goals. You know, what goals do you want to see happen with your garden this year? Because the garden will be happening within your strategy. All right. But it doesn't have to be the only thing you're doing, and it doesn't have to be the thing that you're doing the most. The thing you're doing the most is that number one spot. Either way, if you handle all three of those things, you will have a consistent herb flow. You will have a consistent resource pipeline to you. You'll know where your herbs are coming from. They'll be safe, they'll be reputable, they'll be strong and potent and powerful because you'll have grown them yourself. You'll have sourced them from people who know what they're doing locally, and you'll also have excellent herb supplier connections, and you will also have some foraging skills and some foraging abilities. So that is the whole goal here, is to get into that and to research that. But again, are you going to be tackling all the herbs at one time? No, you're going to focus on your theme. See, so you're only going to focus on the herbs that fit your vision and your theme for 2025. Make sense? Right? So you're not going to go out there and just try to figure out every single herb at once. No, you're going to get the essential foundation for what you need to learn your own herbs for your theme with your own research. And we are going to do a research training later this week, so you can get some insights onto what kind of research to do to find the best research, because there are skill sets to that too. So time scheduling, right? We didn't even get into time scheduling last night. So planning this out. You know, this is just like a time for you to pull out your calendar and to say, these 5 dates are dates that I'm going to focus on those activities, right? Because action plans only matter if we implement, right? If we take the time out of our schedule and say, yes, this is important to me. And yes, I'm going to do this. So, nothing gets done unless it's on the schedule. You guys all put this on the schedule and you all came, and that is exactly what it should be. So make sure to, take some time now and go on your schedule and map out the 5 dates coming up in the next 150 days where you will focus for like an hour to 80 minutes, 90 minutes on these activities. And that is your space and time on your calendar just for those things, to develop those things out. Because these things do take time and they do take some practice. So, yeah, make sure it's on the calendar. And, when it comes to like sequential, like how you do each thing, we go deeper into that, of course. And I do believe that you can, though, if just by having that space on your calendar, know that, oh, this is my committed time to spend on learning a little bit more about which herbs I can forage within my theme. And I can take some time to learn some plant growing methods for plants that I know I've researched are within my theme. See, so it's really not that hard to take initiative on your own to just really kind of start this out and get it going. And yeah, that's how we do it. So I hope this training has been helpful to really kind of like hone in on how and where the herbs are going to come from, because that is definitely very important if you're going to be taking herbs regularly. And of course, the best herbs are going to be ones that you've grown yourself or procured locally. And whole herbs always for your teas and your tinctures and things like that. Tomorrow night, we're going to get into the actual herbal larder, the apothecary, and how to make that space effective and a space that you actually remember to visit every day to take care of and to do your projects. It's a little bit about organization, but it's also about your values and how to make this a space that's super meaningful within your home or office. And also, I have an option if you have no space. If one of your challenges is, I really have no personal space, we have an option for you. And so we'll be diving into that tomorrow. It's a very popular training. And the day after, we're doing herbal medicine making. So, what are you going to fill in your apothecary? What are you going to do with these plants once you've grown them? Make herbal medicine. So, that is our Thursday night training. And so, yeah, definitely a good third session to be leaning into. So, I hope this was helpful for you all. There's obviously so much we can go down with the foraging skills, the herbalism, the actual gardening skills, and the skills to develop those relationships with partners. And but now you probably have a good hand of knowing which one is going to feel the most comfortable for you going forward, what challenges you might need to start thinking about like mitigating or working through, as well as like a game plan as to the timing for you when you're going to actually focus on those things in your calendar. So yeah, great. I'll save the chat. Um, yeah. And no, that simplifying is going to help you kind of hit your goals, because then when you do that, you can always, after 120 days, change your theme, right? And create another whole other space, a whole other set of projects and plants around your second theme and third theme. See, so it builds on each other slowly with slow progression, but meaningful progression, instead of rushing into too many plants at once, which is what
Hi,
creates a lot of waste.
just getting that.
Okay, everybody, I saved the chat. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, and I'll see you tomorrow night, 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, for our third session on the
Hard
practical apothecary. Have a good night.
inside pocket.